Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that, let's be honest, we all hope to avoid: friction at work. But when things do go wrong, there are systems in place designed to handle it. So, what actually happens when that workplace harmony gets, well, a little out of tune? It's the question, isn't it? Maybe it's a conflict with your boss, a feeling that you're being treated unfairly, or an issue with a teammate that just won't go away. When that everyday balance breaks down, what are you supposed to do next? The best way to picture a healthy workplace is to think of it like a balancing act. Seriously, on one side, you have the rights and fair expectations of every single employee. And on the other, you have the standards and goals of the company itself. The whole point is to keep those two things in perfect equilibrium. But what happens when those scales tip? Well, when that balance gets disturbed, that's when formal procedures are supposed to kick in. And it's so easy to look at this stuff and just see paperwork, red tape, bureaucracy. But it's not. These systems are the framework that's built to restore that balance and make sure everyone gets a fair shake. And at the center of it all are two huge processes: how we handle grievances and how we apply discipline. So first up, let's put ourselves in the employee's shoes. What happens when you're the one who feels like something is just wrong? This is exactly where the grievance process comes into play. It gives you a structured path to make sure your issue is actually heard. And it all starts with this feeling: dissatisfaction. Now, what's really crucial here is that this doesn't even have to be spoken. It's that internal sense that something's off. One source I read called it a rust that can just corrode an entire organization from the inside if you ignore it. That quiet dissatisfaction officially becomes a complaint the second you voice it, the moment you mention it to your supervisor, or maybe you write it down in an email. Boom. You've officially brought the issue to someone's attention. You've taken that first real step. And then finally, a complaint becomes a full-blown grievance once it's formally put into the system. This is the official trigger. It basically means the informal chats didn't work, and now a very specific formal procedure has to be followed to get this thing resolved. This quote really just gets to the absolute heart of it. A grievance is all about the employee's perception, the feeling of injustice. It could be based on cold hard facts, or maybe just a simple misunderstanding. But either way, that feeling is what makes the grievance real and what makes it deserve a proper investigation. So what kind of things tend to bubble up into formal grievances? Well, the reasons are all over the map. Sometimes it's purely about money, issues with wages or bonuses. Other times it's the work environment itself, maybe faulty equipment or rules that just don't seem fair. And a really common one is supervision. Things like feeling like there's favoritism or just a bad attitude coming from a manager. So how does this whole process actually work? Well, the good news is it's not a free-for-all. It's a structured, step-by-step path that's designed to escalate things logically. So it usually starts with your immediate supervisor. If that doesn't work, it moves up the chain to the department head, maybe then to a formal committee, and sometimes all the way to a third-party mediator. Okay, now let's flip the coin. Let's look at the other side of that balancing act: discipline. It's so easy to hear that word and just think punishment, right? But its real purpose is about maintaining standards and making sure things are fair for the entire organization. See, the goal here isn't to just penalize somebody. It's about correction. It's about guidance. You could even think of it as a way to train, to mold, and to strengthen behavior so that everyone can work together safely and effectively. It's really about preserving order. And this can be handled in two totally different ways. You've got the old school method, negative discipline, which basically uses the fear of punishment to get people to comply. But the modern and frankly better approach is positive discipline, which is all about encouraging cooperation. It's the difference between doing something because you're scared not to versus doing it because you actually want to. Of course, there are some clear lines that just can't be crossed. Actions that are considered misconduct or indiscipline are what trigger this formal process. We're talking about things like chronic absenteeism, insubordination, willfully damaging company property, or creating an unsafe environment for your colleagues. And just like the grievance process, disciplinary action follows a clear, fair path. It's not a snap decision. It starts with a preliminary investigation and a formal charge sheet. Then, a formal hearing is held where the employee gets to present their side of the story. A decision is made based on all the findings, and this is really important, there's almost always an appeal process. This ensures that decisions aren't made lightly.
So, we've looked at two formal processes that kind of feel like they're on opposite sides of the fence. But in reality, they both work toward the exact same goal, protecting everyone involved.
Let's break this down, because it shows how these procedures are really a two-way shield. For the employee, they guarantee you a fair hearing. They protect you from arbitrary action from a manager having a bad day. And they give you a safe way to voice your frustration. And for the organization, they uphold standards, they help build trust, and honestly, they save a ton of time and money by resolving disputes before they spiral out of control.
So, here it is, the single most important takeaway. Think of these systems not as weapons, but as shields. Whether you are the one raising a concern or you're the one facing one, a clear, predictable procedure is your best form of protection. It is the mechanism that ensures everybody is treated with justice.
And that leaves us with one last big thought. These procedures, they're the blueprint for fairness when things go wrong. But what about getting it right from the very beginning? What role does our everyday company culture, the informal chats, the trust, the communication, what role does that play in preventing these conflicts from ever needing a formal procedure at all? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining The Explainer.